Hi, my name's John Corder, and I'm going to be talking to you about the ratio of pi. I have been watching several videos and different arguments about pi and how it runs on, and issues of Isaac Newton. Sorry, Isaac Newton trying to resolve pi and recalculate how we calculate pi. Anyway, a number of videos. People who agree with pi, people who like pi, people who worship pi, people who hate pi. I don't hate it, but I've always had an understanding that it is not real, or what I would say now as opposed to earlier on when I was mathematically trying to understand pi. It's not a ratio. Uh, I believe pi to be a approximation, and if we look in the dictionary and you uh, ask, well, what is an approximation? The dictionary tells us it's an act or process drawing together. This is a Merriam-Webster or Merriam-Webster uh, definition. Um, the quality or state of being close or near. I'm pretty sure, a lot of people would agree. I'm just going to flip through some stuff here. That pi is actually an approximation. Yeah, I don't really see any numbers defining that, but 3.14159. It goes on for a pretty extensive period of time, or rather extensively long number. It's never been precisely calculated what pi could be, and part of that reason is it's not a precise number. Like I stated, it's an approximation. It's a quality or state of being close or near to a ratio of distances between a diameter and circumference, or circumference and a straight line within a circle. So I had written a kind of like a have to journal or book, almost maybe even a comic, of how to take apart pi, and a lot of the stuff you see on the screen in front of you is from that. I'm trying to get right to the point. I've been watching videos and it kind of goes on and doesn't really give you a definite answer or reason for certain things. It's just saying, well, we can calculate it out now. It's infinite, but it's not infinite. A series of all kinds of possibilities. And I'm going to start with the definition of a ratio. And a definition of a ratio, again from Merriam-Webster's dictionary, is the indicated quotient of two mathematical expressions, the relationship in quantity, amount, or size between two or more things proportional. There's an act of precision that's in a ratio. It's not an approximation. It's precise. Something's got to be precise to be a ratio, and there's usually more than one number in a ratio. And pi is not part of a series of ratios. It's just a number that's not quite right for some reason, and nobody seems to really want to point at the exact reason why it's wrong. So let's jump into that. I'm kind of going over some points here. I'll be jumping around a little bit, and like I said, I'm using some of the things out of a kind of like a comic I made how to take apart pi. By the way, the symbol on top here, I just moved that out of the way. The symbol on top, this one right here, is my actual symbol for what a ratio of a circumference actually would be. Pi, which is the symbol down here, is not a ratio. It's, like I said, an approximation, and there's no doubt in my mind that it is an approximation. Proving it, some people may disagree or agree. Doesn't really matter. I can give you a little bit of background. I'm not really a math buff. I never was really, I don't like mathematics. I do some of it for programming, and the more and more I programmed, the more and more mathematics I had to understand, and I started writing some algorithms, and I noticed something interesting in programming and stuff as it relates to binary code and pi, and how we deal with pi in programming. And it led me to a conclusion that we can calculate actually a ratio of a circumference, and believe it or not, there's actually even a ratio that already exists on a circumference of a circle as it relates to not the diameter of a circle, but what is called a chord. And a mathematical chord, I'm going to jump around here because I do know I have some images here that could help you out, and this is one of them. A mathematical chord is a number that, a straight line, I'm sorry, not a number, straight line that touches, like this line here, inside these 2 points of a circumference of a circle. This is a chord. The diameter of a circle, going from right to left, is also a chord. It just happens to be the longest chord that's actually inside a circle. So the idea was kind of right. The idea was kind of on the right trail. It just wasn't the right chord. There's going to be only a set selection of chords that will make a ratio in a circle. The ratio of pi is looking at 3 to 1. There could be other written ratios. This is kind of a similar thing. I'm kind of jumping the gun here because these are how a ratio might be written. I'm just going to flip through here. I don't think I have just a ratio of 3 to 1. I have some other information. It's going to be in an upcoming video that actually lists the ratios I found inside a circumference of a circle. So I'm going to go over, I kind of just looking at some of the context of what I want to explain clearly. The chord, like I said, the 2 points, is calculated off the radius, which would be half of the diameter, and a radius is also a chord because it can be moved to a point where both ends of the radius touch a point on the circle's circumference. Is a radius a perfect mathematical value or portion of the circumference? No, it doesn't. But it's short enough that you can multiply it and calculate by 4, which is actually going back to one of the drawings I had shown here. Let's see if I can. Oh, yeah, I know where it's at. The radius can be multiplied by 4 and a number to give you the circumference in a proportion. an exact proportion, I have that number, and it was running in some of my other lists that I had here. It's radius times 1.5702. That's that's actually, sorry about that, that's actually a ratio. It's a precise number. This number is, when multiplied by the radius, a chord that four of them will make up the circumference of a circle. Now, saying that, this is a ratio, or a number that's a ratio of 4 to 1 in a circle. Is there a number of 3 to 1 for a circle? Yes. Astoundingly, or surprisingly, what proved that there could be a ratio that actually can be made from a circumference at 3 to 1, the circumference of a circle at 3 to 1, is the general theory of relativity. I, though not going into it here, strongly believe that general relativity is wrong, but general relativity is wrong because the relative position mathematically is created by pi, and it's making everything relative. Anything you multiply by pi becomes relative because it's an approximation on a precision number. So, that being said, although general relativity is wrong, it proves something, or at least it points us in a direction that a lot of people didn't realize. And I'm trying to wrap this up as quick as possible because, like I said, I have another upcoming animation that's a little better in describing in detail the circumferences. But if we look down here, we have 12, 17, and 33. These are all numbers, and these are continued proportions. And continued proportions are really unique, and I probably should have well, you understand what I'm saying. I should have drawn it better, or whatever floats our boat here. I should have described numbers in detail. Now, numbers I found in explaining the continued proportion is 4, 8, 16, 32. That's not quite how it was written. I think it was actually written as I'm reading it off the chart here is 4. First number here would be 4. Second number is 8. A third number would be 8. The next number would be 16. The number after that's 16. And then the number after that's 32. And that could go on and on. That's actually a continued proportion. What's interesting is time, if you do not put a decimal point, and believe me, that's another video altogether, a decimal point in time, any part of time, is a really bad mathematical error. You have to understand, or you would have to try to understand that really time is all decimal points anyway. It's all fractions, and it's held as a ratio, a perfect ratio, whereas everything is precise, and everything is precise because the numbers are already in fractions. And when you're dealing with numbers and you want to be precise, we assume that there's going to be fractions as part of that number, which is why they add the decimal point, not explaining that we already calculate the decimal points in time. There's one day. One day equals 24 hours, therefore it is 24 to 1, the ratio. There are 60 minutes in every hour, therefore the ratio is 60 to 1. And so on and so on. You have seconds. Now, you can't have a decimal point in the ratio because then the string of the ratios between the colons, I believe that's what they're called, is broken, and you no longer have the precision between all the numbers. So that's generally why that's incorrect, and it's not a good practice. There's a formulation you can do, and like I said, that's part of another possible video, depending on if I can get enough interest in this and if people actually follow, like, or whatever, or support by buying merchandise or symbol, whatever. Like I said, I'm not necessarily promoting this. It's something I came across, and I'm sharing it as a video. I'd like to thank you for watching this video. It's kind of rough, and it's my very first one, and it's leading up to an animation that I'm putting together that I think's a little better at explaining at least the ratios involved in the circumference of a circle. I'm gonna probably conclude this video just, from maybe introducing myself a little more. Part of the reason I kind of got so involved in this is my sister had an illness for quite a long time, and while she was ill, and I'd help, prep her for transport or doctor's appointments or whatever, I'd have a lot of time to kind of like dally around with a pencil and some paper or my smartphone and go over equations and mathematics. And I, like I said, was involved in some programming, and I just found some inconsistencies while I was watching other videos, and I came up with this conclusion that pi is simply not a ratio, it's an approximation, and therefore it won't ever be calculated as precise because it's not actually part of the ratio. But anyway, there's more to follow. I hope you liked this video and found it either amusing or informative. Thank you, and have a great night or day.